Welcome to Melt University. This series will help you build your brand, inform you on a variety of career paths, and introduce you to top executives in sports and marketing. Now, here's your host, the president and CEO of Melt, one of the largest independent sports and event marketing agencies in the country, Vince Thompson.
Welcome back, students. Virtual Melt University. We roll on into the fall amidst all of this uncertainty on colleges and campuses and students and dorm rooms and classes and virtual Zoom classes and being able to go to games and I'm living it right now with Carter's sophomore at Georgia, but there is no better person to continue to talk about this dialogue today than my very dear friend, personal and professional friend, Eric Jackson. It says he's the sports business reporter for the Atlanta Business Chronicle, but he's much, much, much more than that. Giant repository and source for everything that's going on in the sports business industry, as well as the sports industry, business industry in Atlanta. And he and I will probably have our own, television or digital show one day with this, if he's not the editor of the New York Times or something like that. But dear friend, and he is going to be so relatable to you today. He's going to enlighten you on how his career path and how he translated passion and how he translated the campus as the ultimate professional lab into a amazing career. And he's under 30, but being the sports business reporter in one of the largest markets in the world for the largest business newspaper in where all these major corporations and professional teams are, and the Blank family and everything, but graduated from Valdosta State, worked his way through college, sports editor for the Spectator. It's similar to I did with the Auburn Plainsman, similar to me and similar to what we're preaching to our kids, game day intern for the Dream, Atlanta tennis championships, did a lot of freelance gigs, and then landed at the Atlanta Business Chronicle. And I thought for many years that the Atlanta Business Chronicle was underreporting the business of sports. And then when Eric shows up, he's really lit up the landscape. So Eric Jackson, welcome to Virtual Melt University.
Vince, thanks for having me on, man. Always a pleasure.
Well, we look forward to you enlightening our kids today. And Eric, before we jump into, your career and path, we like to ask the reporters and journalists and editors that we interview for our program, but from the perch you sit at right now, where do you see the business of sports going, and how is that going to create future careers for our kids?
Right, that's a great question, Vince. And right now, I mean, it's just, as you know, it's complete mayhem to say the least. Right now, there's so much reshuffling and hires and fires, and there are openings. It's just so limited right now, and it's tough. I mean, as you know, the industry has always been tough to get in. I mean, I don't care if you're in production, if you're in media, print or broadcast. I mean, it's always been tough to break in, and now it's harder than ever. So, right. I think this platform's been awesome, and just the audience has gained, and we need more of these in general, just for the kids and up and comers, man. I mean. Right. I had so many mentors and people to help me along the way, and that's why I owe it to these people coming up to do the same. Because so many people help me out. So I think it's important right now, and I think this will pass eventually, right? I mean, it will. But
by the way, it better.
Right, yeah, it better. But I think students right now need to position themselves to, when it does settle down, to be ready to get rolling and not wait for the dust to settle. I think it's easy right now to just sit on your couch and kind of wait for things to kind of readjust and, recorrect. But it's important to be active now and seeking advice and, different ways. And that's why this is a great, kind of vehicle here to just get some insight, especially with the college situation right now. I mean, I don't blame any kid who doesn't want to, pay the tuition right now, and makes it wants to take an alternative route. So, college isn't for everybody. I'll be the first to say that. Even though I took the route, but it's not for everybody. So,
well, you hit on a ton of things that we talk about and unpack And one of the headlines, and you just hit the nail on the head, is that the entry level job market in the sports and events business and sports business was already hard enough because the competition, everybody wants to be in it. But now, Eric, what I'm seeing and what you're seeing is that there's so many people unemployed in our industry who are with experience, who are willing to go in and accept lesser jobs for lesser wages just to get back in the game. And so that's going to further dampen and depress that market. And so then you segue into the other thing, which is basically what my book Build Brand New is about. But these students, and we're telling them every day, you better begin positioning yourself in the marketplace right now, either in a virtual world or a real world, for when it does come back, because the competition's just absolutely going to be brutal, right?
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, I think it's really making those connections, right? I think sometimes I think students are always kind of looking for that first, I guess contract, if you will, or just some compensation, or, and unfortunately, you might just have to trade that for, a good
Right.
conversation, or, just to sit down and, and for the time being. So that's what's kind of, this is what's kind of tough right now. And, I hate to say, because there is this stigma, especially in journalism, that, you have to go unpaid for so long, and it's tough. It really is. But
Right.
I think it's about if you're willing to make those sacrifices. I think more than ever, it's like you're really going to find out how much you really want to be in this business. So,
I think you and I are finding that out as well.
yeah, exactly. So, but if you're passionate like we are and you love it, there's no better place. So I think it's some soul searching time, right? It's really ask yourself, how much do you want this?
Well, I guess you must be reading from our script, because that's a perfect segue in back to the future. Is that what we're hearing from our guests and successful people like yourself, is that, find that passion, pursue that passion, pursue it relentlessly. You get to college, you may not know what you want, but sometimes it begins developing that you know what you don't want. And I was able to combine and pursue my passions of sports and love of sports and writing. And talk about your journey of passion throughout college, and then how that has led you to this point in your career, because it's a big, big topic that we get a lot of comments and responses from.
Right. Well, it started even before college for me. I grew up in a Roswell middle class family, and I went to play basketball at Centennial High School, and always loved sports, right? And I think I was about 16 when I realized, like, look, you're not going to play at the next level, right? You come to this realization, right? So
I realized that at about 13, but
you come to this realization, right, that it's not going to happen. So, but I always enjoyed writing, and I always loved sports, and I think I kind of put two and two together. And most 16-year-olds don't know what they want to do for the rest of their life, but I just happen to know what I wanted to do. So, and that's be a sports reporter. So, from there, I went to Valdosta State and studied journalism. Go Blazers, for those who don't know.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, that I appreciate that experience so much. I really do. And sometimes I think, what would it have been like to go to a big school, right? UJ or Auburn, like yourself, have those experiences. But the small school was really good for me in hindsight.
Right.
I got to become the sports editor of my student newspaper at my sophomore year.
Wow.
That doesn't usually happen at bigger schools. You usually have to wait, and you have to get in line with so many more students, and from there, I got rolling. I covered a couple national championship teams, and obviously VSU isn't the premier journalism school, right? But I made the most of my opportunity. I squeezed every drop out of it, and that's kind of what I tell students is,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to go to Columbia or UNC or UGA, even Grady School. You don't have to, go to these really nice journalism schools to, get your foot in the door. I think work ethic can take you a long way, and, putting yourself out there. So that was kind of what I did for me. I got my first full-time job before I graduated, and that's just because I didn't wait till graduation to start looking. Journalism is one of those things that you get going, experience is so key. And that's my advice, is get started now, interning when you can. And, community newspapers are great. I think that
Oh yeah.
They're usually offering, they always need some help. They're usually understaffed, and, up and coming ambitious people, it's perfect, to get your first couple clips. And,
Right.
or a local TV station, depending on, broadcaster, depending on what you want to do. But, I those are great opportunities to really get your foot in the door and, get going.
Well, you've hit on a couple things, is that it doesn't really matter where you go and where you're at. It's what you make of it. And particularly, and I'm trying to provide insight and tips and advice for all of our students and listeners, is that if I see two kids on paper and one say went to a quote unquote big university, a prestigious university, and one went to one that was a little smaller. But if I looked at Eric Jackson on paper and I'm like, God, this guy is a monster. He was a campus editor and he had 100 articles published and he was this and that and that. And then I look at another one that said, hey, I didn't really do a lot, but I went to, this school or whatever. I'm going to pick the hustler every time. I'm going to pick that person that shines through and the self-starting and the initiative. And then Eric, you hit on another big sweet spot for us, is that we're trying to tell our students now that the campus is the ultimate professional lab, and it'll be the best place ever in their life to really learn and hone these skills. And you are a personification about that. So talk about tips of how they break in, tips of what they're looking for. And by the way, it doesn't have to be sports. They may be event producers, mental health professionals in the athletic department, putting on, Valdosta State has hundreds and thousands of events and sporting events a year on their campus, just like Auburn.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So talk about that, enlighten that for our kids.
Right. I think it's just a matter of being flexible. And, I think sometimes athletes coming, or, students coming up, you have such this idea of what it's supposed to be, Stephen A, or, you're supposed to be, I can't think of, just different figures. You think the route is supposed to be this certain way. And I think it's important to be flexible. It's just like, be open to different, maybe you've always wanted to be in front of the camera, but hey, maybe be more flexible to be behind it and learn about production and how things work. And,
right.
I think just be malleable. It's there's no blueprint to this. Even business journalism for me, that wasn't something that was on my radar.
Right.
It's something that I had to be more flexible too, because I come from, the sports writing background, and, it's a matter of, finding your lane and your opportunities. And that's kind of my main thing, I would say, just for students coming up, just interested in getting in. And I think the main thing is just being resilient, just don't give up. It sounds so cliche, but it's so true. And, I never had a plan B, I never did. A lot of people say, well, make sure, this might not work, have your plan B, forget a plan B. Mm-hmm. I've always said that, because it distracts you, it makes you, go in wholeheartedly and just commit and dedicate yourself. And I really do believe people get what they really want. I really do. And I think if, you just hunker down and just stay focused, I think your opportunities will come. I mean, I heard so many no's. So many before I ever got a yes, before I ever got a yes. So I think, that's kind of the main thing, being persistent and resilient.
Well, you unpacked a couple of things. One is that, we love to use that word relentless. You got to be relentless. And then everybody says, well, Vince, what business are you in? I'm like, I'm in the rejection business. I'm getting, like
exactly.
Pre-COVID, we would say it was a fishing analogy. You make 100 casts to get 6 or 8 bites to land 1 or 2 fishes. And now in the COVID, you have to take like several hundred casts. And the other advice, Eric, I'd like you to share with our students and listeners is never take a rejection or a no personal. And the NO doesn't spell no, it's first 2 letters of not yet. But I wish at an earlier age, at your age or the student's age, I would have learned. I'm so passionate and emotional and believe in my ideas, but I'll get my feelings hurt in a minute. But it's not personal, is it? Because you just don't know what all the factors in that go to that decision of no.
Oh, right. Absolutely. I mean, having thick skin is a part of it anyway. I mean, honestly, especially in the journalism aspect, you're not going to be around long if rejection is something you're not you can't deal with, because even as a reporter, how many interviews and requests, and it's just a part of the job. You're getting the rejection. So it's you have to be, like you said, you can't take it personal at all. I mean, you just can't. I think I've sent out probably like 200 applications, over my young career so far. And, you hear no's. I mean, there's times when you think you're going to get it. I remember one job, the hiring editor was from Roswell, right? I'm like, of course, I got this in a bag, right?
Right.
I didn't end up getting it. So, it's just like you just keep moving, right? You take it on the chin and you just keep going. And
right.
It's important to just keep getting back up and keep going. And also too, being persistent in the sense that, like, hey, call them back. Hey, did you get my stuff? Hey, we can do this, or it's just a matter of I like to say, you want them to tell no. You know what I mean? You don't want to just hear the silence, like, tell me no. You know what I mean? This don't send it off into an abyss. And
tell me why it's a no, so I can do better.
Right. Exactly. And grow. Right. It's about growth. I mean, that's the main thing. Still, I mean, the little success I've had, I still want to keep growing and get better, and it never stops. One of the things that I think Tim Layden or somebody from SI, he mentioned, I still get that nervous feeling before an interview or anything. And it's great to hear that, somebody 40 years in the business, you know what I mean? It's like, you never stop growing, and, hopefully, trying to get better and have those feelings. And, that's, always.
Well, and like I said, you hit on you hit on a lot of things, and the other thing is that you never know when an opportunity is going to come back around. So that's why you can't take it personal. You can't spit back out. Take it constructively, learn from it, build from it, evolve it. You and I get together and break bread all the time. We bounce stuff off each other all the time. But where in the perch you sit in, and I mean, you cover all the professional teams, you cover the corporations, you cover the venues, the establishments, the college athletic departments, and we have had some fascinating podcasts with Tim Zawalski at the Falcons, and Mike Plant at the Braves, and Greg McGarity at the athletic director, University of Georgia, Ross Bjork, AD at Texas A&M, Alan Green at Auburn, and they have really enlightened us to a lot of non-traditional careers in sports and athletics, mental health, name, image, and likeness with kids. We talk a lot about that. The compliance with the rules, or helping the kids, data analytics, fanalytics, how to get people back, what's the safety and experience back. From where you sit, what future career opportunities would you recommend or love to enlighten our students and listeners about?
Right. I think the landscape has changed a lot, right? I think, a new firm just opened up in Atlanta too recently that's really focused on, financial advising and just helping kids through their branding aspects, brand managers. I mean, I feel like that wasn't even a position 10, 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, I think now, especially with the rise of name, image, and likeness, these are going to be opportunities for students and, graduates, because I think these athletes too are going to want somebody who understands, the branding aspect, because, no knock on 40, 50 plus, year olds, but you might not be as in touch. Right. So I think it's going to be perfect for younger people to really, kind of grasp this, what's going on now, and understand the potential jobs that are coming out of it, especially just on the college landscape. Because you see now, I mean, I think we've talked about it a little bit. I mean, even coaches are embracing it more than ever. I mean, you have to. It's like these athletic departments are hiring different positions now more than ever. I mean, it's now catered to the students more, their postgraduate life, and positioning themselves to make the most out of their.
Well, I had two fascinating discussions that I thought I would never have. Big time college coach calls me up and says, I'm a football coach. I don't know a damn thing about branding, but I just had a 17-year-old ask me what I was going to do for their brand, not the other way around. And he said, I really didn't know how to answer that. And I'm like, well, boy, if I got a book for you, coach. And so, told him about Build Brand You, but the sophistication of of a 16 or 17-year-old with social media, with platforms, with having that audience and everything is just really just mind blowing. So as sort of down as we are about the current state of careers and jobs in sports business and sports marketing, on the other side of that, once we get through this and we don't lose any loved ones, the silver linings of the pandemic are going to be a lot of um, new jobs and creation and things of that nature. So, I mean, that is a big one. You've hit.
Yeah, no, they're going to be popping out. I mean, they really are. It's like, wow, like you said, the market's tough right now, but you're going to see these new jobs spawning out of nowhere. I mean, because people need to lean on younger people more than ever, especially ones who are, tech savvy and understand these things, you know what I mean? Like even these things like Zoom and these video chats, I mean, some of these things are not going to go away, even after the pandemic ends. I mean, I think there's going to be certain jobs that people are going to, people are going to need more than ever, kind of leaning on them to, to help their businesses or, their companies.
Well, the thing that the like I said, the brilliant thing, and this is why I love this program so much, is that this is the most, and even your generation, the most sophisticated consumer ever, and digital natives and social media is ingrained, and and all of that. But so segging into that, you work for one of my favorite, I'll call it a media company, multi-platform, Atlanta Business Chronicle. We recently interviewed Michael Smith of the Sports Business Journal. You guys are owned by the same parent company, holding company, and all about creating opportunities for young college students. And what we're Eric, what we're trying to enlighten our kids is that read and follow publications such as the Atlanta Business Chronicle and all the virtual events and all the tweets and all the newsletters and all the daily reports, because particularly if you want a job in this market, the Atlanta Business Chronicle is the repository, particularly if they follow you. Talk about some of the things that the Atlanta Business Chronicle does and tools that they help offer kids, and then tell our kids how they can follow you and connect with you.
Right. I mean, the Business Chronicle, the goal is right to be the business destination right here in Atlanta, and that's helping business owners grow their own companies and businesses. It's that financial insight. I mean, that's what
you've been very good to me. I can promise you that.
That's the goal. I mean, that's really what the mission of the company is to help business owners, or executives, not necessarily owners, but people in the business community. So so obviously, commercial real estate's big for us. That's one of the things that's constantly going, especially in Atlanta, that's constantly growing. And, we have our, data reporters and education, and the sports aspect, it was pretty dormant before I came a year ago.
You've ignited it, that's for sure.
That's been the goal, kind of the sports business aspect is, a lot of people just think about what happens on the field, right? Or the court, or what transpires there, but there's so much more. I mean, I don't even look at sports the same I think I did, a few years ago. It's,
right.
It's the entertainment industry as a whole. So it's, that's kind of the main thing. And I think it's important to just, for the listeners out there and the students and up and comers to, like I was mentioned before, it's being flexible. There's so many jobs in business journalism as well, and financial reporting, and even if it's not something sports that you would like to do, I think it's you should keep in mind, Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, these other places. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah.
Take a look at some other publications, national publications as well, and I think you'd be interested. So, but the Chronicle, kind of going back, I mean, we usually offer pretty good opportunities through our parent company, ACBJ. Obviously with COVID, we didn't have our internship program this summer, but we'll definitely reload for next summer. And anybody interested can always reach out to me. My email is epjackson at bizjournals.com, bizjournals.com. You can follow me on Twitter too at epjackson. But I'm always interested. People reach out to me, and it's been tough during the pandemic because people have reached out to me, and I just don't have many opportunities,
right,
to point them to at the moment. Like we mentioned, how tough
it
it is
right now. I wanted to get you on, but I want to. I'm always trying to share insight and advice to our students and listeners. Like when they reach out to Eric Jackson, what gets your attention, and what's a turnoff? Because I like you, I get thousands of solicitations, and if I have a kid that's put some effort into, hey, Mr. Thompson, War Eagle, congrats on your building melt, et cetera, et cetera. I already know they've put a little time and research and attitude into the outreach, as opposed to, hey, this is Joe Smith, and attaches my resume, and I need to make X dollars a year, which I immediately flush those things. But so you would think some of this is common sense, but enlighten our students of what gets your attention at the level of solicitations that you do get.
I would definitely say a turn off is probably talking about money immediately, right? Like off the bat, right? Like before we even talk about anything, you know what I mean? Because I like hungry people, man. Like I was,
yes,
or still am, you know what I mean? But when I was 18, 19, sometimes I think of myself like, it motivates me when I think about how hungry I was then. Like, man, get back to that. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like that's, I wanted any opportunity, paid or unpaid. You know what I mean? I want to get my foot in the door. I just want the opportunity to meet someone and get experience. And I'm not encouraging to be underpaid or what I mean, because there's a stigma in journalism too that you don't make pennies for until 10 years into your career, but at the same time, though, I think you have to be willing to make the sacrifices too. You know what I mean? Right. And I love to see people like who really want it, man, who really just come in, who are like, look, what can I do? You know what I mean? I'll do production. I'll get behind the camera on it. I'll write. You know what I mean? I love the people who are just ready to do whatever they can to just get in the business and just get some experience, because experience is everything. It really is. And, right. The money will come, Some advice somebody told me a long time ago was like, when I was working for the student newspaper, was treat the student newspaper like a real news, like a real news job, and you'll get a job. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Treat it like I was making no money. Well, I was making
right.
Basically nothing. You know what I mean?
$3 an hour.
Right, exactly. And I was so hungry. I mean, there was times I was skipping class to go cover events, which maybe I had it backwards, right? But that was just my whole thing was always in school, to use school to get to where I wanted to go. You know what I mean? Like it was, it was just like always that was, that was everything. And I don't advise anybody to put their education over.
Right.
But I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like that was, that I just want to see, just passionate people and who are ready to just break in. I mean, and you can tell, even the email, you can tell, you really can. Like, look, I just want to get in, what can I do? What can I just tag along? I have this guy, he just tagged along. Just, I went out on an assignment, did some stuff. Yeah. Just seeing how the process works. Can I just tag along? Like, it's stuff like that, man. It's just like, wow, this guy,
you can feel that attitude and energy on the come out. And what we tell our students is every interaction that they have with Eric Jackson is in the form of an audition. And because like you're monitoring their immediate behavior to evaluate them if they're going to become a future reporter for you, or employee, or researcher, or whatever it is, and we're coaching them into saying, hey, look, and Eric, you just hit the nail on the head too. We have a saying called "It's only as important as you make it." And so, if this initial outreach to Eric is lame, that's the signal they're already sending to you about what type of person an employee they would make. And so I think you like I said, you've gone down and hit the nail on the head. And I mean, you've made this so easy, but a couple of as we lead and head out of here. We always like to ask our leaders and our guest here, like, and you're so much more. Obviously, your generation, and you're talking to some people you're very close to. But a couple of things. Talk about the value of building and nurturing relationships. And everybody says, Vince, how do you represent Coke for 20 years, Coca-Cola? And I go, well, I just never take the relationship for granted. And I use you and I as a building relationship and nurturing. I mean, we never really wanted anything from one another. We just had a lot of common bonds, and then we reached out, and then we broke bread, and all of a sudden we become, really, really good friends. But I want you to continue to tell our students how important this will be the rest of their lives.
Oh, I mean, it's everything. I mean, it really is. I mean, like the cliche about when the people say it's not about what you know and who you know, and it really is true. I mean, I've worked really hard, to get to this point, but I'd be lying if I said that I haven't gotten help from a connection or two, and I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say that. So and you never know who you're talking to, too. I mean, it's like
Right.
Even when you're in rooms with different people, always be on your, I guess best behavior, but always be attentive too. And, I mean, you never know, this person might have an opportunity for you down the road. You don't want to burn bridges, but you also want to make sure that, you're paying attention too. You know what I mean? You can't just, because different people, bring potentially different opportunities to you too, so it's you
never know. You don't know.
You never know. I mean, you really don't. I mean, there's people I made connections with years ago and just popped up, a couple weeks ago or what have you. You know what I mean? It's just like, you just never know. So I mean, it's important to treat everybody, which is pretty common, right? Treat everybody with respect, but it's important to try to make, and be impressionable and just try to, make good connections, because you just never, in the sports world, it's really small. I mean,
it's so
like
small.
I used to think it was this big, huge, like this, it really is. I mean, it's, what do they say, the 6-point degree, or I mean, it really is. If you don't know that person, you probably know somebody who knows that person, and it's. So it's especially in the sports world, especially.
It's fascinating when you and I first got together. I said, everybody assumes that this is a gigantic city and town, and it is, but this circle is small and tight.
Oh,
and,
Atlanta.
And the other thing is that the importance and value of following up and maintaining it, like, if they meet or encounter Eric, virtually or on a podcast or on a live event, one day down the line, is just always just be making that effort to follow up, because you'd be shocked at how many people don't. So the ones that do, it rises to the top. So I think your personification of that.
Exactly. And not always calling when you need something too. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's important it's a two-way street with any relationship, right? It's like, just keeping your connections, and just a check-in goes a long way. I think sometimes people dread doing it, but it's important to keep your relationships.
It's so important. I mean, you and I'll get together for lunch, and we never have an agenda. We just find a lot of great things to talk about and learn things about one another, and then you just never know where those are going to emanate out of that.
Right, and it's beneficial on both sides, right? I mean, we both walk away, and it's pick each other's brain, and I think that's the main thing. I think so many people kind of take it for granted, and unfortunately, not to knock this generation sometimes, but I think sometimes the up and coming generation, sometimes those connections, I don't know if they stick as much as maybe your generation did, or those face to face talks. Or I think it's really important to, it's great to talk on the phone or tweet or text, but it's really good to get in person and face to face with people too.
Yeah, and you hit on a big point that's a pet peeve, is that you can't all of this, the text generation and the TikTok generation and all that does not translate well into the follow up in the business world. And I think a lot of The good news, silver lining about COVID is a lot of students are learning that right now. Really got to put a lot of that, more of that effort in. But we could go on all day, and as we wrap these fascinating conversations up, we always like to ask our guests, like, and it doesn't have to be sports, and it doesn't have to be, what are go to books, podcasts, writers, authors, resources that you would recommend to our short of the Atlanta Business Chronicle and following you, but inspirational in things that they need to be reading and consuming right now during this period.
Oh man, well, I mean, always stay up on your news, of course. I mean, there's a lot of
Right.
I'm a member of the media. I'll tell you, there's a lot of BS out there. So always make sure you're looking at credible sources and getting good information. And
Right.
I'm reading a couple different books right now. Actually, one's about the Trump campaign. Another is from it's called Black Man's America from it's actually from a former reporter of the Post too. It's actually by Simon Booker. Really good reporter, former correspondent with Appen Newsletter. So, but that's kind of a couple of things that I'm reading right now. There's a lot of motivational guys out there. You know who I like? He actually is part owner of the Hawks, Jesse Itzler.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Jesse?
Well, I'll tell you a funny side story. I met Jesse, talking about relationships. I met Jesse in 2003 at the LeBron James First Brand Summit at the campus of Akron University when he had founded Marquis Jet. And so I see him riding in Chastain Park with his kids. Tell me, if these kids aren't following Jesse, tell them about him.
Jesse just so high energy, and I love it. You know what I mean? I think during the pandemic, a lot of people have gotten down, and he's stayed consistent. Just a lot of just tips about going through your day, and just I love at his age how he's still trying to try these new things, and making a list of things he's never done before and trying to. And I think it's really good to no matter what age you are, right? I mean, obviously I'm young, but even I hope when I'm 55 or 60, I'm still trying to find new things to learn. And I think it's easy to get jaded, right, as you get older. And so I think that stuff is pretty awesome. Just little things, whether it's like certain little diet things, or if it's certain little wellness things. I mean, little tricks of the trade. And I love those kind of inspirational guys. Eric Thomas is another great one too. I mean, he'll have you jump out of the bed in the morning, what I mean? So it's like, I think, especially during the pandemic, I think it's so easy to get down and sad, but
right.
There's still so many like opportunities that, because while the market's tough right now, there's such a reshift too. It's there's a lot of people about to make a lot of great ideas and potentially a lot of money out of this whole pandemic. You know what I mean? So I think it's important to just keep trying to find your lane in this, and stay motivated, and stay upbeat, because this is going to pass. But where are you going to be when it's over? And I think that's kind of the big thing. Don't wait for it to be over.
Well, we have a couple of sayings. One is in chaos there is opportunity, and another one is change is inevitable, growth is optional, choose wisely. And those axioms never have been more relevant than they are today. But Eric Jackson, Eric, my dear friend, personal and professional friend, I think our students and listeners know why you're on a rocket ship to success, know why you are where you are, know why you're one of my favorite people. You have enlightened them beyond enlightenment today, and I know you're going to hear from a lot of them. I know that they're going to start following you and using all the great resources of you and the Atlanta Business Chronicle. But Eric Jackson, the voice of sports business in Atlanta and the region for the Atlanta Business Chronicle, fellow hustlers such as myself at BSU and Auburn and intern programs and Attitude. And so we really thank you today for joining virtual Melt University.
Vince, you've been a great friend, man. I always appreciate our conversations. One of the first people, I made a connection with when I moved back to Atlanta, a year ago. So it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to what we do, right? Collaborate on the future. Who knows what it holds, but
it's been a crazy. By the way, it's been a crazy year. Eric and I were cruising in to kind of hanging out and spending some time together during the Final Four in Atlanta, and then the record scratched, shall we say? So, by the way, that was 5 months ago, if you can believe that.
I know, man, it's crazy.
Anyway, we appreciate your time, and it's been such a delight to spend some time with you today.
Vince, thank you, man. We'll be in touch. Let's go grab lunch soon.
Yeah, we got a lot of people to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Thanks, Vince. Hope you enjoyed today's virtual class. We'll be back soon with another edition of Melt University 2020.